Hey everybody, good to see you again. Thanks for coming back and hanging out with Mr. Bauer today. Today we're going to focus on summarizing text, which is basically being able to explain what you read. Now, as we get started, I want to point out the difference between summary and retell. Okay, I know some of you like to talk a lot and you want to tell every little detail. Well, when we're talking about summarizing text, we're just picking out the most important things. So a couple key ideas I want you guys to remember. The difference between a retell and a summary. First of all, the summary should be much shorter than the original text. If it takes you 5 minutes to read the story, it should not take you 5 minutes to retell this or to summarize the story. It should be much shorter. We want to use what's called paraphrasing rather than just copying all the words and phrases and sentences. We're putting this in our own words. We want to have the big ideas in sequential order, which means this happened first, this happened second, this happened last. A lot of the details we don't need in a summary unless if they are very important. This is not a place for your opinion, and you want to leave outside information out of your summary. So if it wasn't in the text, don't bring it in. You don't want to do something like, oh, well, one time, blah, blah, blah happened to me, and blah, blah, blah. That's not the place for the summary. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is creating a topic sentence for a summary, and it's going to look something like this. The first part is you want to name it, and that's where you tell the book title and the author, or maybe it's a short story, or in our case today it's going to be a fable. And then you can use a verb. I have three typed here. One is describes, one is tells, one is informs. There are many others, but for today you can choose one of those three. And then you want to give the big picture, which is the main idea of the whole story. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the story that you might have seen before. It's in one of Aesop's fables. It's called Mercury and the Woodman. And what I'd like you to do, if you haven't read it before, is once you see the story, hit pause on the screen, and then you should make sure to read through this because we're going to use this as our example. So let me pull it up here, and you can pause your screen as soon as I do. Okay, there's Mercury and the Woodman. There's the story, and you go ahead and hit pause on your screen and make sure to read through that because this is the exact story that we're going to be working through. All right, now that you've paused it and had a chance to read through it, let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do to summarize this text. Okay? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to be able to name it, okay? And if you remember, that's the book title, or in this case, the fable. And we'll call it Mercury and the Woodman. And I'm going to double check just to make sure that's okay. Mercury and the Woodman. Great. And that is by Aesop. Got it. Okay. Now we can use one of the words describes, tells, or informs. And I'm going to use the word tells, right? I imagine Aesop as this big storyteller, so I'm going to use that one. And we will say, let's see, Mercury and the Woodman by Aesop tells about a man who loses his axe and what he does to get it back. All right, so we have our topic sentence all set up. Mercury and the Woodman by Aesop tells about a man who loses his axe and what he does to get it back, right? Now there's a little bit more to that. There's a little bit, but I want to save some of the, I want to save the ending for the end of my summary, okay? So we have our topic sentence. The next thing that we need to do is we're going to use some jot dots for these big ideas. And what I want to encourage you guys is we're going to stick to the rule of 5, which means we want to use 5 words for each of these to keep it short, to keep it summarized. So we don't want to use words like of, an, the, in, on. All of those unimportant words we're going to leave out. And I joke with you guys when I say I want you to talk like a grunting caveman or cavewoman. Ooh, yes. Boy, swam, river, right? Just keep it very simple in this case. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to think about something that happened at the beginning. Okay, so we have, let's see, the first paragraph, the poor woodman was cutting down the tree late in the day. He was tired. He'd been working hard. Axe flew out of his hands. Boom, there it is. Immediately, we have our initiating event. So we're going to say, Woodman, tired, working, loses, axe. Okay, now what we're doing is we're pulling out our own understanding. While I know that you probably want to turn that into sentences, that doesn't feel good. We're going to do that in just a minute. Okay, so after he loses his axe, now we've got some of the middle. All right, he was in despair. He had to have that to make money. Couldn't buy a new one. He was sad, and then Mercury shows up and he talks about what happens. All right, so we'll say upset. Let's see, upset and Mercury. And let's see, finds golden axe. Okay, so now the man's upset, and we know that's upset. We know that Mercury's not upset. So we know that the woodman is upset. Okay, now in the middle, let's see what happens next. Is this your axe? No, that's not, even though it was gold and he really wanted it. Went back and found one of silver, said it wasn't, it was just ordinary. And we kind of learned through this whole thing that the woodman is honest. All right, so he gets all three of the axes, the gold, the silver, and his own. Okay, so Mercury presents silver axe, and I'm going to leave it at that. Now, the rule of 5 doesn't mean it has to be exactly 5 all the time. It just means no more than 5. So Mercury presents silver axe. We'll say Woodman, honesty, neither axe his. Okay. Again, it might seem like it's not complete sentences, but what we're really trying to do is we're really trying to use it in our own words, not going back and saying, oh, then Mercury dived down for the 3rd time. No. We want to make sure that this is focused on our understanding. Okay. Now, towards the end, we start to get a feel of, remember the theme is honesty is the best policy. We start to get the feel that he goes and tells other people, and then other people are saying, oh, yeah, all right, they're going to get those axes, right? So he appeared, first one, this one, showed the axe, and then they said it was his. And then instead of getting that gold axe for being dishonest, they each had a hard whack over the head with it and sent them home. All right, when they went to look for their own axes, they were nowhere to be found. So they lied about it to try to get a better axe, and they learned that it's not even the original one. They don't even have that. So we say villagers, dishonest, lose axe. And let's put the word punishment in there. All right, they don't use the word punishment in the story. Now, the only thing that I want you to encourage you is I see the word axe here a lot. Now, we know that axe is kind of the focus of this. So if you feel like you're using the same word over and over, maybe you want to change it up, or maybe you want to leave that out. But for right now, we're going to leave that in. Okay? All right, now that we've got our rule of 5, what we're going to do is we're actually going to write the summary. And this is where we get to use our planner. Okay? So I've got a little space right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look back to my topic sentence. All right? And that's where we have Mercury and the Woodman. And Mercury and the Woodman by Aesop. And we said tells about and we're going to go back to our planner, tells about a man who loses his axe, a man who loses his axe, and what he does to get it back. And what he does to get it back. All right, so there's our topic sentence, and now we can go to our jot dots. Again, we want to tell this in sequential order, so beginning, middle, and end. So we'll say, let's see, we got to use the word Woodman, tired, working, loses axe. Okay, let's see. Let's copy this and plop it down in here. Make it a little bit smaller so we can, there we go, okay. And we can use some transition words like, in the beginning, a woodman was tired after a long day of working. His axe was, it was so tired after a long day of working that his axe slipped out of his hands and goes missing. Upset by this, Mercury appears and presents the woodman with a golden axe. After being honest, the woodman is presented with a silver axe from Mercury. Again, the woodman is honest and says that isn't his either. Mercury presents his original axe as well as the gold and silver axes, much to the woodman's excitement. All right, Woodman, we'll clean that up a little bit. Woodman's excitement. He tells the villagers who proceed to lose their axes as well. Being dishonest, not only do their axes stay lost, but Mercury punishes them with a bop to the head for their dishonesty. All right, so now let's take a look at here. Mercury, silver axe, neither, villagers. Okay, so we got the beginning, middle, and end. And so we're done with that. Now, next thing that I want you to do is, one thing that I mentioned is that a summary is significantly shorter than a retell. Okay, so you see that we have, here's our summary. If we go back to the original text, we have to ask ourselves, does it look shorter? Okay, so it seems like it's about maybe a third or a fourth of the length of the original story. So that looks good. Okay. I'm going to go through this one more time with what I mentioned. It is much shorter. We used our phrases by using the rule of 5. We talked about the big ideas in sequential order. We have what's first and then next and then next and then last. Most of the details were taken out. There's no personal opinion. I didn't say something like, I think it's good to be honest too. We left out all of our personal opinions. And then any information outside of the text, we made sure to have all that too. So there's nothing like, oh, one time I lost my socks and I couldn't find them. Or one time nope, we're leaving all of that outside information outside for our summary. So it looks like we did a pretty good job. I think the last thing that we would want to do is go through and make sure there are any unnecessary details. If they are unnecessary, let's take it out. Let's see here. In the beginning, all right, so it tells us about how the problem starts. Talks about the golden axe and then the silver axe, the honesty, and then he gets the original axe. Tells the villagers, by being dishonest, not only do their axes stay lost. Yep, all right, so it looks like everything in there is important and necessary to our summary. Okay, so in review, we have a difference between retell and summary, and we went through that. It looks like there's 6 points here, so we got all of those. We came up with a topic sentence with a name it, verb it, and big picture. Then we used our jot dots, our rule of 5, to use it and put it in our words, not the author's. And then the last thing that we did is we planned it all out. So if you're ever looking on how to summarize a text, that's a very simple way that you guys can use that so that you are having the exact information that needs to be into your summary. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with Mr. Bauer, and we'll see you in the next video.